Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all pulling up to another stream. We on episode 4 over here. We got our fourth guest. Uh, Most of y'all know her on Instagram. Some of y'all see her on the Lapeef Network or the Lapeef Experience. Her name is Inaz, and on Instagram y'all can find her as at this is Inaz or Inaz. I'll figure out what correct way to say the name coming up soon. But we'll be talking about dating preferences, online dating, dating with different religious backgrounds, and many other things. We'll see y'all soon. Well, what's going on, everybody? This is episode 4, and we have our guest, Inaz, right?
Yep, you got it.
Got it this time. I knew I was gonna butcher it during the intro, man.
It's okay. It happens a lot, but I appreciate you asking for the correction.
Exactly. So we figured it out. All
Yeah.
right. So we're gonna just go ahead and jump right into it, man. First of all, what do you do? Like, do you even have a YouTube channel? I mean, I know I spoke to you in backstage about blogging and stuff.
Yeah. I guess everybody does to be on YouTube, but there's nothing on there. I just use it to participate and spectate.
No, okay, yeah. So, and I've been on the panels and conversation with you. You really got a really great perspective, and you actually stand your ground on what you believe. I like that in you. So, um,
Appreciate
yeah, I know I promised you that I'll pull up too over there to join the conversation. I actually like going over there and having a conversation with y'all. So,
it. You're welcome anytime. So we
uh,
should be on Friday. So you're welcome to join.
okay, cool. What time do y'all go again on Fridays?
9:30 ish.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right,
emphasis on the ish.
right. All right, so let's just jump right into it. So we're going to be talking about data preferences, pretty much, seeing what, people's dating preferences look like on paper and, how to analyze it before they actually go out and date and see if that maybe their preferences may be a little bit too tight to where they can't like make a breakthrough on whoever they, desire to be with, or maybe it just might be too broad and they maybe confuse themselves on specifically who they want to be with. So, and there's no right or wrong answer to the questions. I mean, this is all about finding solutions here. So let's just go ahead and kick off with the first question.
All right.
First of all, are you religious before you even answer this question?
Um, on the spectrum, kind of. I am Muslim. I'm somewhat practicing, but that's definitely an area and I can improve in.
Cool. So yeah, I come from a Christian background. So my question to you is: should religion have an influence on dating?
I think if you are religious, absolutely, or if you have your person already and they're religious, it should have an influence. But if that's not a factor for either of you, I don't see why it should have an influence.
I'm the same way. But I mean, when I was in church, I used to hear pastors say, uh, the couple need to be even, this term called evenly yoked or something like that. I don't know how that even makes it even better because I've seen people who have the same religions, their relationship fail at the same rate, if not a higher rate, in people who have different cultural backgrounds or religious backgrounds. So,
Yeah, I think it depends on the two people and how they see religion, because religion's one of those finicky things where a lot of people feel righteous, um, and some people just feel right. And I think that really makes the difference, because if you're acting in righteousness, you're constantly observing yourself and your own practice to push yourself to be better, which inevitably will make you closer to that person. But if you feel right, that to me has always shown up as constant criticism of the other person. So I don't see how you can't create distance and conflict if you're constantly criticizing.
right. Is it true that what they say when they say, what I think in a Muslim religion or background, that you can't see your woman's body until you get married? Is that like a strict code or something like that?
um, to some degree, yes. So for women who wear a hijab or niqab, they take modesty very seriously. So they're very covered women. And when you ask for a woman's hand, you then have the right to see her without her hijab. That doesn't mean you get to see her full body. You get to see her unveiled, but you don't get to see the body until it's time to consummate the marriage.
And I know in today's society, they got this thing called body positivity, and people are like leaning real hard on physical attraction.
Mhm.
That's got to be difficult for people in that religious background who have to, keep their body covered until they know it's for sure.
Um, it's to some people, to people who are westernized, maybe, but in Islam, there is the belief that your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to God. So you need to take care of it as if it belongs to Him and not you. So things like overeating, not exercising, and taking care of your body, nourishing it, for women adorning it, you would be steering away from your religion if you're not taking part of those practices.
That's very interesting. And I never really thought about this because I have heard that your body belongs to God. There's even like in the church I used to go to, we even have like hymns and songs that we would sing about your body belongs to God. And my question to you is, I know in 2023 and probably moving forward, uh, cosmetic surgery on the body is probably gonna like just keep going or either increase. And is it safe to say that Muslim women who really into it and they feel like their body belongs to God, that they wouldn't partake in cosmetic surgery? Because I mean, if it belongs to God, I mean, like
Yeah,
then it may be saying like, well, God, I appreciate what you gave me, but this ain't working for me. I do something else.
right. So there's a level of being really careful in this conversation, because in some cultures where it's still a predominant Muslim country, they still engage in cosmetic surgery and have probably been doing it a lot longer than the West. But in terms of just strict religious rules, it's completely prohibited to have cosmetic surgery. It's only life saving and essential surgery that is permitted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that I can understand and agree with. Like anything to save the life. So, is there anything specifically like in today's society, as far as religion, that makes it challenging today? Like, if someone of a young lady up today
Mhm.
was saying, "Hey, look, I want to be devout. I want to be all the way in. I want to be, Muslim." What are some of the like? What is like the main challenge like that's common that she would have to deal with given today's societies and the Western culture? That is.
Yeah. But that's just it. It's the westernization of religion, right? Or the practice of religion. Um, the religion we're taught is often not the religion that's practiced by a lot of people. Um, and it can feel really challenging to try to find somebody who has the same level of belief as you, or at least won't hold it against you either. So finding two people that can cooperate with the goal of getting better in their religion and getting closer together as they do it, can be pretty challenging.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, you knocked this first topic out of the park, sis.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna move on to the next question. Next question is, how have you tried online dating?
I have. I
You
have.
have.
I have. I've
How is it?
tried.
Is it any I mean, is it a significant difference from dating in person?
Oh yeah. Um, I've tried just about all of them at this point. The religious ones, the non-religious ones, the new ones, the ones that have stood time. Like I've tried almost all of them at this point.
And that's like what Christian Mingle.
Well, I'm not Christian, so but we
Okay,
have
so you
our Muslim equivalents.
how you have you tried Tinder?
I have, I have. It lived up to its reputation. So I think with online dating, there's a couple of things. It's the, catfishing is a real thing for women, the same as men. Um, and I think you lose the authenticity of like real, genuine connection. I think so many people are trying to get people to swipe right on them that they forget to be themselves, and it makes it really challenging to like get to know the person, at least like even just like a little bit farther than the representative. Either that or people are like really abrasive. They forget that there's another human being on the end of that screen, and so it's immediately kind of jump into demands as opposed to engaging in natural conversation.
Yeah, I actually done a little research on that stuff, and I read an article and it said that most people who are on these dating apps are either already in a relationship or not looking for commitment, which was
Yeah.
puzzling to me because the last time I've been married for almost a decade, so the last time I actually got on an online dating app, I think it was an app called, I don't even think it was an app. I think it was just a website. Actually, you would go to. It's called Plenty of Fish. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Hmm.
Yeah, so that right there, the whole brand name of that just suggests that, hey, look, this is, hey, all people who are interested in serial dating, you're welcome.
Yeah.
So I can just imagine, like, I mean, this is the world of, you would think, since this is the world of social media and everything is all on social media, that the dating, online dating should be, trending and rising in a positive direction. But that's not
Why,
even the case.
why do you think that?
I mean, because everything is so digitized and everything is all about tech. Everybody has tech in their hand. So it only makes sense for, everything that has to do with it to rise, with everything else around in society. But that leads me to believe that maybe it's not really social media or online dating, it's actually what people really want to do. Because I
I,
mean, if they really wanted to get committed, like the numbers would show that people wanted to go there for commitment. But maybe this is a replica. It's replicating what people actually want to do in real life. They actually just want to go and hook up.
I think I think with the like human disconnection that like this technological revolution has created, I think people have become lonelier than they've ever been. And I think that's allowed a lot of people to no longer believe in relationships or commitment. I think that there's a lot of people out there just really disheartened and just have just kind of given up and have settled for the hookup culture.
You know what I think? You know where I think the catfishing or the ghosting come from? I
What's that?
think I think the online dating gave people who would normally wouldn't want to approach you in person. Those people that had that lack of confidence to where, they were undertone and they wouldn't speak much, or they were, oh, I forgot what the name, the term for it was. But they wouldn't normally go try to interact with somebody, because they would fear rejection, or they just didn't have the confidence. They didn't know how. So I think
Hmm.
online dating was a option for them to be able to, introduce themselves into the game, the dating game. But they just didn't. You still got to have that social skill,
Yep.
because at some point you're gonna have to show face, video, or you're gonna have to even meet in person. So then now you got to be like, okay, maybe I'm not ready. I'll just ignore this person and block them and try it again when I'm ready. Like so, uh,
I agree. I agree.
yeah. So yeah. So online dating, I have never. I did get catfish. But I never got catfished as in, okay, we set up a place to meet and the person wasn't who they were. I got catfished as in, okay, look, let's have a video call, because we had Skype whenever I was
Hmm.
free, or single or whatever. We had Skype and I was like, hey, look, hit me up on Skype. and the person would never show their face on camera. So I was like, okay, yeah, that's a catfish. I consider that a cat.
Yeah. So there's like varying degrees of catfishing, right? So there's, I can only speak from my experience as a woman. There's hat fishing, there's height fishing, there's all these variations that people choose to lie about themselves in order to be picked. So I that makes me empathize with men who have to deal with the makeup and the hair questions. Sometimes those caps can can create some issues too.
And I haven't like when I say I haven't been on one in a while, I can just imagine the illusions you got to get through, or the levels of larceny you got to get through if somebody's on a dating app and they're even on a video call. But I'm pretty sure they got these filters that remove all the blemishes and all that other stuff. Like, man, that's got to be really hard to deal with.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's go ahead and keep it moving.
All right.
The- So, do women have a time clock on when they should get married?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, so they
Um,
do.
yeah, yeah. Um, there's definitely a caveat to that, right? I think that, as a woman, you want to get married in your prime, right? Your early to late 20s is obviously ideal biologically. Um, that does not mean, despite what the majority of the internet says, that if you are past that point, that there's no hope for you. I don't think that women who aspire to get married should give up on marriage after that point. But I think there needs to be a realistic conversation of what the best you have to offer is and when that is.
And you know what? I've made videos. I've bought into the ideology in some sorts, but I still kind of on the fence about women having a time clock. I think their time clock is only relevant according to whatever man or whatever type of person they desire they want to date, because these people actually reflect, okay, these are the type of women I want. I want a younger woman. And if that type of man is all you desire, then now you have to buy into this time clock thing. You get what I'm saying? Because
I
I, I
hear
don't
you.
I don't think a lot of men really, or I don't think most men are like, oh yeah, she's got to be between this age bracket.
I hear you. And I think that's a fair point. I think that you want to cast your net fairly wide, right? And then sift through what it is that you're catching in your net. So finding a man who's okay dealing with potential challenges around having children after a certain point, I think is great. The likelihood, especially in this climate, of men having that mentality could be a little bit more challenging, right? Not to say impossible, but I think it is harder the older you get if you don't have children and would desire to have children. Those health repercussions to you or the child are not to be ignored either. I think there needs to be a balance instead of being really extreme about things.
Right. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I agree. It's just that it's only I would even argue that most men who really push for this preference of having a woman who's within the window of being able to give this man children, and without any at-risk pregnancies or whatever, or geriatric. I would say most of these men don't even have the capability of taking care of a household.
That's fair.
You know what I'm saying? If you look at the stats, a lot of these kids today, I mean, we have a fatherless crisis, for God's sake.
Yeah,
So this notion, or this standpoint that, oh yeah, she's got to be able to make babies for me. Like, come on, man. Or can you even take care of the kids? Or are you even taking care of the kids you have already? So like we really, at some point, we gotta really get real with ourselves and be like, okay, now maybe we should look at it from a different perspective. Because I mean, it's not like men are out here saying they want a bunch of kids.
It's fair.
I think that could be used as a tool to or a way to a defense mechanism to be like, okay, I want this woman to be in this age bracket. Just say you want a younger woman, and don't use, oh, she got to be able to make babies. Just say, I just want a younger woman because, maybe they're fitter, they're younger, they're fine, they're exciting. I would rather hear that. You know what I mean?
I, I I agree with you, right? And I think the common pushback to that is that there are a lot of people out there that challenge that preference, right? They call them names, they insinuate certain things about them, which may or may not be true. We don't know. This is the internet, right? Um, but sometimes when people state their preferences, it gets received with so much pushback that people feel the need to give what other people would consider an acceptable response.
And I would also argue that the preferences don't really come from that person personally. I think that's a preference that they share with somebody they're inspired by. I think about Kevin Samuels and high value man and all these other terms that he coined a lot. A lot of people wasn't really fixated on that as
Mhm.
expressing their preference through those terms he was using until they were inspired by him. They were intrigued by his persona, his character, and how he pushed it and how he became popular off of it. So they adapted and say, okay, this is who I'm inspired by. I'm going to use his principles and project that in my dating preferences because I want to feel like, he feels. I want to I want to be like who I'm inspired by. You know what I'm saying? But that not might not necessarily be what you really want. So we're sharing, we're piggybacking off of other people's preferences. Like if it's trending, I swear to God, if somebody famous come out with something trending and it's got something to do with dating and relationships, and they are admired, and they're a man, a lot of men are going to jump on that and like, yeah, I believe in that. That's what I want. But that wasn't how you was thinking last week, though. You know what I mean? So, so I'm humble enough and I'm accountable enough to admit, what I'm saying, that that's the case, and a lot of brothers are probably not going to do that.
No, that's fair. That's a fair statement.
Right. All right, so let's keep it moving, man. We brushing through this. And shout out to everybody who joined in the chat. I think sophisticated jerk. Shout out, homie. He said he said, do you think people are too reliant on dating apps and technology? What did you think about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think it's become an excuse to not develop soft skills, that you can just hide behind a screen and say whatever you want and add whatever filters, that you don't have to deal with the repercussions of dealing with another human being. Like I could be mean to you today. I'm not going to. I could be mean to you today and there's no real repercussions, right? Whereas if we were face to face, there could be some very serious consequences, right? And I think it's emboldened people in negative ways. And I think it's reinforced a lack of interaction between people.
Good response, man. You surgical with this stuff. Well, let's move on. Is it better to date you now or when you? First of all, is it safe to say that you're out of your 20s?
I am,
Okay,
yes.
respect. Is it better to date you now or when you were younger in your 20s?
Definitely now. So
Why is that?
um in my 20s, like most young girls who go off to post-secondary school, I was my thought process around things, the world, relationships were very influenced by what I was learning in school. Um, Now that I've kind of unlearned those things and kind of figured myself out a little bit better, I feel more grounded in my beliefs. And so there's so much more of that to offer than a lot of the combativeness I would have had in my younger years.
What do you say made you consider combative as in your younger years? Like, how did you get like what did you do to get rid of that type of attitude or whatever?
Um, I realized that feminism was kind of a scam. Um, just learned a lot of that in school about feminism, and at that age, you feel really emboldened by it, very empowered by it, not realizing that it's a setup. Um, so after going out and meeting people outside of my immediate community and just experiencing life and having conversations with other people, realize that there's more to it. And as I kind of practiced a little bit more, tried to reconnect with my religion a little bit more, I've realized that it was very opposite to a lot of my core belief systems. And so shedding that makes me a very different woman today.
So I'm guilty of this. I've spoken on feminism in the past. Um, and when I spoke on it, I just stated the term feminism.
Mm,
But I do know there is some positive parts about feminism, like women voting and stuff, and being able to have equal rights and do things that they wasn't able to do back in maybe the 40s and 50s or whatever. But
hmm
what would you say specifically about feminism that could maybe ruin a woman's chance of dating in today's society?
I think the idea of equality um, is really problematic. I think that, at least with what my religion teaches, is equity, right? That me as a woman, what I offer in a marriage, as a mother, as a daughter, that those things have value. And that you as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a son, that has value as well. Our value isn't the same because we don't offer the same, but neither one is discounted over the other. And I think what feminism did was it said all the things that women were doing before, that has no value. And unless you search for equality, you too also don't have value. And it's really unfortunate because women lose an important part of their role in order to win a rat race that doesn't have a real prize at the end.
Okay, that's excellent. Are you dating now?
I am in a relationship.
How, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been in a relationship?
It's still fairly new.
Okay.
Just a few months in.
And would you say that you are the type of person who dates to marry?
Yes.
Because I just wanted to get that straight. Because some people would date, and wherever it goes, is where it goes. There's no pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said earlier, women have a time clock, so there may be some sense of urgency. Hey, look, I'm dating. I don't got time for games. You know, um, I'm I'm where I want to be at in life. I'm just missing X, Y, and Z. You look like the perfect candidate to fill that. Let's see where this go. How can a woman? Because I think women, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think women struggle with this part. Making it clear that hey, look, these are my expectations. I want commitment. And the part I think they struggle with is the things they contribute to the relationship, maybe physically.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that may be too early because some men may feel like, okay, well, if you've given me everything, I'm not going to be compelled to go to the next level because I have it all and I'm comfortable with this. Given the laws and stuff that's kind of skewed as far as divorce court and men so-called quote unquote taking a risk getting married today. So
Yeah.
like, how can a woman, even though men are like, okay, look, this might be a bad idea given what's going on in society. How can women be like, okay, look, that's still the deal for me without running this guy off?
Mm-hmm. I don't think women should be scared to run people off. I don't. I think that if you are a good woman and you are principled and you have values and that is what you want, I think moving from that place, you don't chase off people who have the same value system as you, who has the same principles as you. The people who you tend to chase off are the people who have heard you go down your list of requirements and have heard you talk about what it is that you're looking for and are faking the funk, right? Um, Now that doesn't mean be abrasive to everybody, right? It's, you got to give caveats on the internet. Um, I think that as long as you're operating from who you genuinely are, you can't scare the wrong person away. And I think that if you sacrifice too soon, I think it becomes harder and harder to continue to search for the right person.
Right. So a woman need to be upfront, honest, and not be so concerned about running a guy off because the guy might not just be the right person for her, and it might be good that she actually ran this dude off. So it's important nowadays to just stand on your principles and stand on your standards. Because
Absolutely.
and you know, a lot of guys will come out and say, "Hey, you need to lower your standards." You know, just don't. If you feel like that you're valuable at that level, just stay at that level, right?
I mean, I think that's tricky, right? Because it could be that your standards are unrealistic,
Oh,
right? So I think that there needs to be some self reflection on how genuine you're being, right? Do these things hold merit? Like, I don't know a woman that doesn't like a tall guy, right? But is that the thing that's going to be the deal breaker? I think that standard is kind of unrealistic, right? But somebody who has good moral character, I that's not something that you can afford to waver on, right? So I think there needs to be like a scorecard on what your standards are in order for you to decide if your standards are too high or not.
is there a such thing as a woman being able to qualify for the standards that she's impressioning upon men that she want to date? Like, can she build herself up to a level where, okay, I've worked hard, I've done the work, I'm a unique woman, given the status I've reached. I'm not settling for nothing, and I'm not lowering my standards because there's not many of my type.
What does that mean? What's the status and what's my
So,
type?
so for example, they got on the men's side. If we were to flip it, they got this thing, the status called the high value man.
Hmm.
I'm saying on the female side, is there a hierarchy a woman can reach, a level a woman can reach at the highest pinnacle to say, hey, look, I've reached this far. This is my standard. This is the level you have to level up. Yes, you got
Hmm.
to be 6 feet tall. You got to be this and that. Look at me. Look at what I've done. I'm everything that most men want. I am not dropping my standard. Everything is realistic. Is that possible for a woman to reach today in society?
Um, Not really, but
Wow.
sort of, but sort of. So let me. So in order for it to be true and validated, there needs to be a man who fits those qualifications to validate it. So a woman can't just say it on her own. She has to have a man. Her ideal man has to essentially validate her standards in order for her to be justified in her standards. If there is not that man, then that is your cue that maybe you don't qualify for the man that you're trying to attain.
Well, I would say there is that man. It's just a very, very low percentage of that man. And the chances of this man buying into monogamy, knowing that he's at a certain level to where he could, to quote, exercise their options if they want to because they're at this level, she probably gonna find it difficult to, you know, finding compatibility with the type of guy she's or the type of standard she's imposing on these men. So,
I mean, there is a solution. It would create a very different problem, but
and
the
what's the solution?
So if I'm not mistaken, polygamy is still illegal in the
Oh
US.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So it's trade-offs.
yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, if a man is equipped to take on a polygamous relationship, my religion dictates that, there's go for it, right? It's not a bad thing, inherently bad thing. But I think when we remove that option with legal repercussions, it can make the landscape a little bit more challenging. Um, that being said, I can also recognize that there would be a lot of men who would find it even more challenging to find a good woman if all the men at the top are kind of hoarding them all.
Yeah, man, that is dope. Yep. I had a conversation about Nick Cannon and some other billionaires, and I was thinking like, man, if you can make yourself the top 1%, I mean, I think given the amount of women who can't find a man, or they want to have children and these children can't be raised, I wouldn't argue against a man who has multiple billions of dollars to say, hey, look, I'm gonna have multiple wives to give women a shot at. I know women want to have their own man, but they still be able to get a shot at uh, a life, with a father figure, successful man. So
Yeah. So two things. One, I don't agree with the way Nick Cannon is doing it. I think you shouldn't have more than you can actually take on because,
that's true.
not actually caring for your children seems kind of wild to me.
I never read on that. Is he really not caring for his children?
I don't know the validity of it, but I've seen quite a few articles about him losing track of how many, or
Oh,
forgetting some names and birthdays, and
yeah,
at that.
money. There's not enough money that's gonna be able to
Yeah,
to
so
cover
I think
down on that.
right. It feels a little irresponsible. But to your point about women wanting their own man, I think that because polygamy was practiced for a really long time in the history of humanity, right? I think that somewhere along the way, some men lost the skill set to manage multiple households, and that created an insecurity in women where they adapted to wanting just, you know, one man, one woman.
I
I
gotta
think
warn you. What you just said is gonna piss off a lot of men.
I understand. I understand. And it isn't for everybody, right? It's the same way that not every woman qualifies for a high value man, right? I think that there is an important skill set in order to do it responsibly. Now, if you want to be irresponsible, I mean, people are doing it now anyways by cheating and having mistresses and all sorts of stuff. But in order to do it responsibly, there is a level of discipline and character and level of justice that you need to be able to practice at all times. Um, so, yeah, I think that it was an evolution. I think women evolved to only want to not share.
You know what? I would even go far, and the men hate me for this, but let me know if this makes sense to you. And I'm gonna piggyback off of what you just stated.
Mhm.
Men losing the skill to be able to manage multiple wives. I wouldn't say that they lost the skill of being able to manage multiple wives. I would take it a step further and say they never had the skill to manage multiple wives. And I know they're gonna kill me for it, but hear me out. They never had the skill set, I think, when laws and repercussion was introduced into society. That's when it revealed that they never had the skill, because you had to be able to take care of these kids. You had to be able to be there for the women. And whenever you introduce laws and all these statutes and repercussions on having children and multiple wives here and multiple kids here, and you haven't had this responsibility, or you could be tried or punished or whatever, I think that's whenever everybody was like, okay, yeah, we probably need to go to monogamy since we're going to introduce a government. You get what I'm saying?
I do. I don't necessarily agree with that because
Because
I
I
think
don't think men just dropped the ball and it was like, oh, I can't manage multiple wives. Like,
No, I don't think it was as easy as like, one generation where like that was it, right? I think that with fewer people practicing it, there wasn't that example, right? Christianity had a really big part in that. Christianity has predominantly preached monogamy. The other part of not having it as an example, I think that because what it means to be a man has changed, the definition of it has changed over time and has shifted over time. That in order to still be considered a man in a different era, um, it doesn't require the same skill set. What you need in monogamy is very different than what you need in polygamy. And so, if you're only taught how to function in monogamy, you're already set up for failure in polygamy. So, if you don't have the example and you're not considered a man in the same way, then you're just kind of doomed for failure, right? And so,
Damn.
yeah.
So who would you say, if in today's society, what is there a man right now that exists that is the ideal replication of or representation of a man that could actually have the skill set that somebody can go to and learn and research and understand? Okay, this is the guy that I'm going to go and try to research and understand how to operate as a man in polygamy. Is there a man? Is there such a man that exists today?
um,
Or when was the last time he was existed?
so I guess it's a two-part question. So the example that the Muslim community uses is the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Even though he's no longer alive, his teachings are very much accessible in all sorts of languages. Um, so maybe start there. The other thing is that there are a lot of people across the world who still practice polygamy responsibly, under marriage, under with provision, and the laws are not the same, and yet they still choose to take on the responsibility the way that they do. So, when it comes to traveling, not so much about the touristy stuff, but get to know people who live a life that's a little bit different. Also, the internet is very accessible to most people. So, just kind of doing some research, some googling, and delving in the same way that most men do with their fantasy teams, right? Having
Yeah,
this same curiosity towards other things, you'd be surprised what kind of skill set you could learn.
I'm just trying to think, man. Like, especially in the Western culture. I mean, man, I've got multiple billions of dollars on some Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos type, and I want to have multiple wives, and it don't work out. Can you imagine how much alimony I'll be? Like, God.
I mean, well, the Saudi princes, right? You take a look at them. Then most of them have multiple wives and multiple billions, and they tend to their women don't tend to leave quite as often as this part of the world. So, they have to be doing something right.
How much a percentage of that is scare tactics? Like, I have 500 billion. I can erase you without anybody knowing. The judges get paid, the police get paid. Don't
Yeah,
try me.
I mean that's true. I think that in this part of the world, wealth there's an obsession with wealth. There are men who are nowhere near as wealthy who still have multiple wives. Um, so in that realm, I think that the scare tactics are true, whether it's the West or another part of the world. But there are millions of people practicing polygamy who don't have that same pull, who still find success in relationships and marriages.
Mm, well, I'm gonna have to get somebody who's actually married to just try to dive into, like, okay, when you got married to multiple wives, I mean, did y'all do a prenup or something like that? Like, goodness, I can imagine. Is it the 50-50 or whatever? What is it, 33, 33, 33, or I don't know, depending on how many you got to get to 100%. But anyways, let's move on.
All right,
So, is loyalty earned or expected?
both.
Both.
um, I think there's a base level of loyalty that exists. But I think as the relationship develops, the loyalty then just expands, right? Um,
So there's levels to it, loyalty.
yeah, absolutely. Your loyalty to your job is not the same as your loyalty to your family. And depending on the circumstance, one is over the other. Um, when it comes to friendships, your loyalty to your best friend versus a friend that you met a year ago isn't necessarily the same. And it doesn't even have to be the length of the relationship, it could be the quality of the relationship. I think that loyalty is on a spectrum that always has some sort of base level as long as there's an established relationship.
So with that said, it's safe to say in today when people get in a relationship, they're kind of delusional on the loyalty they expect whenever they had no history or they haven't even earned the intensity of loyalty or the amount of loyalty that
Hmm.
they're pushing on this person. Like, oh, I've been dating you for a month, so you better not do this. And we haven't got there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think controlling people's behavior is a little silly. I think it creates a really contentious environment. I think people should be allowed to do what they want. Your expectations should be communicated. And if that person shows you that they don't measure up, I think that should be a clear signal that depending on their character, you either work with them or it's time to keep it moving.
I agree, and I would also say that you're in a relationship and you got your loyalty, you got your faithfulness, and you're threatening your partner, say, "Hey, you better not cheat." But deep down inside, the partner wants to cheat. Like, is it worse that they? I mean, isn't it like the same? They actually want to go carry it out, but they are in fear. They don't want to do it because I'm the person I'm like, hey, look, if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do it. I don't want
Mhm.
you to not do it because I said you couldn't. If that's how you feel, then that's what you need to go do. Be yourself. I want you to be able to. I want you to not cheat because you don't want to, not because I said you shouldn't, not because society said you should. If you're the type of person that feel like you can't, that's not what you want to do because people call it a mistake. I don't think it's a mistake. I mean, there's so many things that has to take place, that has to transpire for you to carry out infidelity.
I
It's
agree.
just that it's not a mistake. Okay, I'll make some exception for somebody who's just drunk and they go get, but even then though, man, come on.
Yeah.
It's a responsibility thing that steps in and it's like, hey, look, because on the flip side, if you got to go to the 7-Eleven at 2:30 in the morning and you got to go to a certain aisle to find the right condom size and all that stuff, and then you got to orchestrate this thing and carry it out. At what point is that a mistake or an intention? It's a strategy that comes in place so you can get this thing, you can be able to deliver this action.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for me to think that it's a mistake at for the most part.
So I've been thinking about this like mistake thing for a little bit. I think it's a little controversial, but I think the mistake is the miscalculation of people thinking that they could get away with it. I don't
That's
think it's a
that's it.
mistaken
That's an
intention.
educated. You just shortened my whole thing for me.
Uh,
Miscalculation. Because I'm tired of watching the soap opera, TV shows and movies. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Like, really? You was banging this girl. You had her head up against the wall. Like, dude, you didn't mean to do that? Like, come
right.
on, man. Like, nah, you didn't mean to do that. You was going in, bro. Like, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. Like, what do they call it? The cliche line in
Yeah.
relationship movies or cheating movies. Like, come on, man. Now, if that ever happened to me, like, look, man, you just caught me. Just say that. Look, you caught me. I didn't mean to allow you to catch me.
Yeah. Right.
I didn't know you had the up on me. I didn't know you was checking my phone like that. I didn't know you had an air tag in the truck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, say that. I mean, I think the conversation to go over smoother if you were like honest, because I think women have this thing, what do they call it, intuition. They
Yeah.
know when you're lying. A lot of them already build up their way to approach it based on the facts and evidence they got, and they just test you to see if you're gonna still keep lying. Like, damn, dude, just let it go, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go to that. We got a couple more questions.
All right.
So, is there ever an occasion where infidelity is justified?
No.
No, there's never a case.
Nope. Um, I think you're sure on my views on polygamy at this point. Um, so multiple wives is something that's worth a discussion. I think that if you can't be open and honest and communicate, and you allow that to create a rift where infidelity is has happened, I think you had way bigger problems before getting to this point. I think people were not being honest, people were not heard, people were not clear, um, people were not respectable. I don't think it's ever justified when honesty, openness, and transparency are on the table.
So, you think if a man really wants to be with another woman, he should have the conversation with his woman. Like, hey, look, I want some more ass. Like, can I? Or it should be a conversation prior to commitment, saying, "Hey, look, I want to have multiple, or I want to be in a polygamous relationship."
Yeah,
And I think, what does that conversation look like? Because in the Western side, a lot of these sisters ain't really down with that. I mean, like, even if you approach them with a conversation, some of them, most of them would take it as disrespect, when maybe you were just trying to be genuinely, transparent and upfront and honest. Like, I mean, I want to consider this. How do you feel about it? A lot of them will take it as a slap in the face. Like, really? What? I'm appalled. You really think I would go for you? You know? So what do you do with that? How can a man have a conversation with a woman uh to be more to be respectful about it? You know.
well, I think first off, if she's not open to the conversation, already there, it's probably show her the exit sign, right? If that's what you truly desire, if that's something that like is non-negotiable for you as a man, I think men should be unwavering about the things that they want out of marriage or out of a relationship. I think that creates structure that women understand how to live in, and the women who don't weed themselves out. Um, so if she's not open to a conversation about polygamy or non monogamy, however you want to define it, I think that that's probably not going to be the most cooperative person. Now, she's within her rights to say this isn't for me, but if she's not willing to entertain a conversation on day one, day two, day 20, what does that look like 20 years from now? What does openness, honesty, transparency look like, right? I can definitely appreciate how men have a whole lot of foresight, but I think that this is one of the arenas where they're too compromising on the future of their relationship.
Is there a way to a man could start off a conversation um by revealing that she's actually open to having a conversation about polygamy without seeming disrespect? Because it's like nobody's wearing it on their sleeve. Like, hey, look, I'm open to conversations about it.
Yeah. I think just starting with like, hey, what are your thoughts on polygamy? Right?
Oh, okay, yeah. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts on it?
What are your thoughts on it? And it's not for me or this and that or whatever. And if she has a conversation, then she's open to a conversation about polygamy. If she shuts it down immediately and is like, you know, men who like that or this and that and is just combative up front, then you have your answer there, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with testing the waters if you're not comfortable having the conversation more clearly.
And I'm glad you said it, because I just came up with a technique that you can take home and try today, fellas. Go look up some articles or look at some trending topics on polygamy and that's interesting, and just share it with your mate and see if she hit the like, or or she want to read it, or I'm like, hey, babe, what do you think about this? These couples are having a good time picnicking out there and or whatever. You think that's cool? And she's like, yeah, that's cool. They look good together. And then now you can have a conversation. But if she's like, yeah, I would never do that. She's stupid. She's stupid for sharing her man. Yeah, then the conversation. That's the way to just validate whether you do it. Might be a little extreme, but hey.
Break the conversation.
Yeah, so this is a tough one because a lot of people um try to use, okay, look, if what you brought to the table in the beginning relationship start to deplete and you get careless, on your weight, you let yourself go, you don't do the things you used to do, and then a lot of men feel like they're justified to step away or do what they want. So I think I think that may be something a lot of people struggle with. And I think it's like you said, a communication thing. And man, just communicate these things.
Mhm.
And you've been in a relationship for this long, you got time invested. Just let her know, hey, look. And they would, and I've talked to guys and they would say, man, I did, man. I told her like she need to get her shit together. Like she don't go to work. I work every day. I come home, the house nasty. There ain't no food. She's just sitting up there watching TV. She don't gain 40, 50 pounds, man. Fuck it. So like, and I told her, look, man, if you don't get this shit together, I'm out. And she's still like, what do you do? You're still not justified to go out and cheat. But one would say, I mean, I know the term infidelity may have to be strictly connected to having sexual intercourse with somebody. But either way, it's a sense of betrayal. I
Mhm.
would say the things that provoked this person in that scenario I gave you was also a level of betrayal as well. And maybe that, him stepping out would maybe even the score, maybe.
I hear what you're saying. I think where that's a little bit challenging for me to accept is that, again, I believe that men have great foresight. How why did you wait this long to have this conversation? Why did you wait for it to get this bad to now bring this up? Right? When she's if right, because no, it's not every woman, but if she's saying, hey, I need these things from you in order for me to get to that place. You have two young children. If your wife said, hey, I need you to take care of them, while I go to the gym, right? We've chatted a few times. I know your character enough to know that you wouldn't have a problem with that. There are some men that aren't willing to do that, right? So where are we both dropping the ball that it let things get this bad, right? And I think when it comes to open and honest communications, it has to be a two-way street. It
It has
can't be just a one-way street. Both people have fault in it, right? The woman has her fault for not taking initiative, right? But if the man is the leader, the head of the household, you spotted this problem way before it got here and you let it slide. So in that case, if you've let it slide, were you just waiting for an opportunity to cheat or a circumstance to cheat?
And with that said, basically, there's no way you could validate,
Nope.
you know, or justify cheating because you've had so many ways to be able to mitigate the issue or whatever, rectify the issue before you
Yep.
even got to that. Man, a lot of men probably gonna be upset with that too. But hey,
It's
you got
okay.
a really strong argument on it. A lot of
Appreciate
people are not able to articulate context to support, what you just said there. So they're gonna have their hands full with that argument.
it. Yeah. It's okay. I'm open to a conversation.
Trust me. You know. So last question.
Hmm.
I think you don't even have to answer this question. Actually, I'll just flip it because we did say you were dating. You're not having dating for a long. How long, if you don't mind me asking, how long have you been dating specifically?
Uh, I don't know how to answer that question.
Like, how long have you been dating this person that you're with?
A few months.
A few months. Is it safe to say that I believe that you can love somebody within a week or a day, even Is it safe to say that you guys are that you found the love of your life?
I believe so.
Okay, so and that's good. So what would you say if you were giving advice or you were speaking on a general basis for the women that may
Mhm.
struggle with this today? What would you think? What would you say is stopping? What is the like number one thing that's stopping women from finding the love of their life today?
Themselves.
You said themselves.
Yeah. Um, I think that some truths about yourself are really uncomfortable to take a look at, right? But if that's really the barrier for like forever happiness, it's worth it. Um, my person knows I put in a lot of work to get to where I am now. Investing in myself, going to therapy, surrounding myself with better people, putting myself in better environments, going to the gym, eating better, whatever it is, just putting yourself in a situation where you set yourself up for success. It's not easy, it's not for the faint of heart, but the reward at the end of the day is absolutely worth it.
Well, and I think that I think this stigma that or this these principles that say, "Hey, you should take me as I am." I think Mary J. Blige even had a record out that said, "Take me as I am" or whatever.
Mhm.
I think some of the stuff that's you could say social media, you could say a lot of women that are icons or inspirations to women may say, "Hey, look, take me as I am." That may have something to do with their sense of urgency and not getting out and you know optimizing themselves for the person that they want to be with.
Mhm.
I think they're just thinking about who they want to be with, and they're not thinking about that person who he want to see in reflection or on the other in you. And I think that's where the disconnect is. And I also think that's where I might be stepping out too far, but I think that's where Kevin Samuels kind of flourished off of. He was able to expose the disconnection between, okay, these are the type of men you want, but you're not the type of woman those men want. And you could be the type of woman these men want, but you just don't want to go out and do the work. But then there's feminism and there's body positivity and these other
Mhm.
things that say you don't have to go do the work. He should just take you who you are. And if he's not, and if he doesn't, he's I don't know if misogynistic is the right term or he's
Yeah.
toxic or these or narcissistic or whatever. Like how can we start a conversation or how can we start a trend where we can get away from that without having to be criticized or judged?
I think so. Kevin Samuels had a lot of pushback from women, I think, for a lot of the reasons that you just listed, right? Feminism and body positivity and all of these things. I think that the response to it was super extreme, right? Not Kevin Samuels, but the response to Kevin Samuels. There's this idea that being a moldable woman means that you're spineless, that being a submissive woman means you don't have personality, that being a cooperative woman means you don't have a say so. And I think that the more we get away from the extremes and move towards moderation, you understand that your personality has just as much weight as your looks, right? Because there are a lot of beautiful women that are also being passed up because their personalities don't measure up to their looks. And so it's the women who offer both that are really out here winning. And so to give yourself the best chances, because that's really what it's about, giving yourself the best chance to get the man that you want, you got to be the best version of you for that.
Shout out to the great Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, coined the term Mamba mentality,
Mhm.
being the best version of yourself and trying to do that every single day, trying to figure out how you can be better than you were yesterday. I'm a firm believer in that, and that's how I've been able to stay in the shape I am today because I take pride in it, and I just keep pushing forward. Like, what is there any weaknesses? How do I strengthen those things? So I'm a firm believer in that. If I want something, if I want to accomplish something, what is the criteria? What are requirements?
Yep.
Do I meet them? How far off am I from those requirements? Okay, let me set some goals. Let me build a strategy to see if I can get there. And eventually, if I keep working hard on it every day and focusing on it, I can get there. Man, go ahead. You get it.
Yeah, so to that point, right? Kobe, I'm not the biggest basketball girl, so bear with me a little. But Kobe Bryant, LeBron, and Michael Jordan are all greats, right? They're not the same player. They're not carbon copies of each other,
Right.
right? They're all great in their own respects, but they put in the work. And that is what women need to understand is you can be great in your own respect. You just got to put in the work.
Man, that is a bar. That's gotta look. I got a lot of clips from here. That is a freaking bar because I fundamentally believe that a lot of women are trying to be the same woman. Whatever's trending. And whether it's she's got a certain BBL or breast, a certain hairstyle, they all trying to fit into the same hole as a woman instead of just being who they are and just optimizing who you are.
Yep.
Because I'm gonna tell you, man, I see a lot of women in the gym, out, and they're not really maximized on who they are personally. They're just trying to say, I'm gonna just shred away from this and just be this person that I am not. I'm completely a whole complete person. Like, and that's where I think that's where the people are messing up at.
It's
And
not.
I would say men, I don't see men doing it at the same rate as women. I don't think men have the
You don't think
I don't
so?
want to say I don't think men have the ability, but I don't think men are really trying to go
Oh, I
be this
disagree.
ideal man. Like, I mean, I know there's this thing called high value man, but the men are logical. Like, man, fuck, man, I don't got that money, man. I'm just, hey, I
Come
mean,
on. You live in Atlanta. You know that there are a lot of men out there fronting like they have money they don't, or
what they've been
stuff
doing
that
that
they
before the high value man. So they use designer and labels to give off the illusion that they have
or
it, but they don't really have it.
or job titles, or there's men can be just as creative as women. It doesn't just because it doesn't show on their bodies the way that it does for women. I think men are equally creative at pretending
Equally,
to be
no. We can't go get. I mean, we can go. I guess we can go get hair transplants and all this other stuff. And
lace front beards, and now they're
uh,
getting the
I
the
don't know. I think
getting the
women
bone
are
surgeon for height.
a couple steps ahead of being able to completely. Man, this 2023, man. You can be a man one day and a woman the next day. So it's kind of really hard to argue that. This
Yep.
an argument to go along. But I will say this. I think women had a head start,
Yeah, that's fair.
and
That's
they've been on a streak for a while. They got the record. There's no way it's gonna be a while before a man reach the record. But man, I don't see men. I mean, I have heard about chest surgery or surgery to get abs and all that other stuff. But
you haven't seen the new ones where it makes you like a foot taller.
I'm not gonna. You know what? That dude, I saw a dude on Instagram. And he had his legs longer, like. But I'm like, damn, man, that would just make you look even more dinkier. You got a long shin in a shorter thigh. Like, come on, man. Like making the guys taller and stuff. Like, what do you do when you want to go out and play soccer or something? You kick something, like, no, man, I don't think it's worth it, man.
Yep.
Because there's this thing called body proportion, and I became certified image consultant back in July. I took a certification for it. There's a thing called body proportion. You
Mhm.
got your upper body and stuff, and it's broken down, and you can break it down in fourths, fifths, or whatever, eighths.
Thirds.
And if your legs, are longer, you try to use clothing to camouflage that. Now, by maybe bringing the hem of your shirt down lower, to give you a longer torso, or if you already have a longer torso, in a lot of cases with women, they will bring their waistline and their pants up, maybe
Mhm.
over the belly button to compensate for that. So, I just don't know how that would work out if a guy has longer shins. I don't even know how they even.
Shorts.
Man, that's crazy. But other than that, man, since we wrapping it up, you got any questions for me?
Yeah. This is a very different vibe over here. What inspired all of this?
Uh, oh, you know what? I had a conversation with my wife. You know, I had a conversation with my wife, and you know, she was saying, "Look, man," she sat me down. She said, "Hey, look at all the content that everybody's making. Why is it all the same? Why is nobody really like diving into solutions and trying to, why are men and women quarreling so much? Why we can't just have a conversation? We all know what's going on, but is there ever going to be a conversation where we can try to fix things or figure out why things are the way they are? Because a lot of the conversations are just finding the problems and debating on which problem is the worst or what activity or what behavior is the woman doing and how is her behavior worse than the man's, and whoever can prove that online or during a live conversation wins, and we can redo the shit again on the next week or something like this. So it's like, man, I'm trying to figure out if I can build a community over here to figure out if we can, have conversations like this one-on-one. Nobody gets cut off, because people get to finish their thoughts. I may have cut you off even in a one-on-one conversation, but we can get an understanding. People can be like, okay, look, I want to go to his channel because they actually try to find solutions and they have meaningful discussions that can, drive the conversation to another avenue that where everybody's just stuck at and they just hit a wall with it, and it just becomes redundant. And then now you got to try to figure out, okay, how can we keep talking about the same bullshit? We got to wait till a trend or a celebrity or something make a mistake, and the views are. I don't want to get stuck into that. I want to just keep moving forward. And like this conversation we had, we could put this beside us because now we know the truth. And if anybody ever want to know about infidelity, anybody ever want to know about monogamy, polygamy, they have this live stream as an evergreen video to go look back and say, oh yeah, now I see how you feel. And I feel like I painted myself in a way where I was real hard. I was real.
Mm.
Some would say I was real toxic, so to speak. You know, and I wanted to be able to, build something, a platform where I can kind of clear the air and be like, hey, look, this is who I really am. You would even see, like, I don't know how, like, some of the videos I made, I purposely tried to let you know, hey, look, this is kind of, what is the word, satire? I would kind of say, look, a lot of this is truth, a lot of it is based on facts, most of it is based on what's trending. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to see that there's some humor in what I'm saying. I purposely try to be funny with it or comical with it. You know what I'm saying? To let you know, hey, look, this, just laugh with me. It may be harmful, but it's funny though, So that
That's
didn't really work out too much. People took it too hard. So I was like, look, let me just go ahead and rebrand and introduce a different person. I've had an email, somebody saying every time I see the word bruiser, I get traumatic, post-traumatic because of the video made about single moms. I'm like, look, man, when I started over, I'm just using my real name now, so nobody get triggered.
all right.
No.
I appreciate it. No, I like it. I like this. And so hopefully I had fun. Hopefully you have me back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So every time I have a good conversation, I always write. I got an Excel spreadsheet. I write now. Okay, we most definitely can do a sequel. We right here. We be able to drive the conversation, man. But other than that, do you got any plugs you want to, plug or whatever? I mean, I don't have a big audience over here. I'm starting something from the ground, but
No, I'm just here for dope conversation. So that nothing.
it was a good conversation.
Yeah.
But tell your man, I appreciate him allowing you to have the time to come have a conversation. Some of these jokers, they get jealous these days.
We'll do. We'll do.
All right.
All
Appreciate
right.
that. Be nice. We'll see you on the next one. Ain't nice.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All righty. All right, y'all. I appreciate y'all pulling up. That's episode 4 in the books. And we got many more, man. Y'all see how we doing things over here? Why wouldn't you want to come over here and join, man? Send me a DM on Instagram, send me an email, and I will gladly have you on a conversation. I know it seems like I'm doing only women, But fellas, if y'all want to have a conversation, man, pull up. I just know that a lot of fellas who do want to have a conversation tend to want to debate or argue, and may not be interested in coming over here because there is no argument, or there's no challenge, there's no debate. But there's other places you can go for that. Right here, we're trying to keep it civilized, and we're trying to move the needle, trying to get somewhere with these relationships, so people may be able to have something to look at for some hope or for some answers. So if you've been watching this long, I appreciate you pulling up with us. Make sure y'all hit the like button. And I think we have another one on the 27th. So look forward to that. Make sure y'all subscribe so y'all can stay notified when we're dropping videos or when we're dropping live streams. Appreciate it. Y'all be easy.